Hello, welcome. Welcome to the October BaZi and Feng Shui talk. This is a pre-recorded video, so it's always a bit strange for me, but um, thank you for tuning in and looking forward to diving into what is in store for another new month. In some ways, kind of a blessing, but also in some other ways, it's hard to believe how time is just moving right along. And for those that are new and tuning in to these talks for the first time, you can always go on to my YouTube channel, Feng Shui by Jen, to check out all of the previous uploads that I have shared in the past. As some of you know, we will be making some changes to how these videos are delivered in the future. We still have one more month that we're going to cover in November, and we will take a hiatus in December because I usually take a break in December in preparation for the Chinese New Year talk. So after that, going into the horse year, 2026, we will be connecting through a different platform. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I felt inspired. I've been doing a lot of writing lately. I'm writing my second book, which is on BaZi. It's a long-awaited book, but I'm finally getting around to it. And I'm just in this headspace of writing and reflecting, and thought I'd write a poem that I guess capture or encapsulates the energetic theme of the season that we're in, September, going into the month of October. And hopefully, as we go through the materials today, you'll get a glimpse to why October is such a, I don't want to say profound time, but October usually is a moving and spiritual time that is really meant to halt us for a moment, to take a pause and to assess, right? And usually October in the West anyway is an ideal time. A lot of children are going on fall break. It's usually the time where a lot of events are happening because the slew or the busyness of the holiday season is just around the corner once November hits. So October we squeeze a lot in in October, but also there's a lot happening energetically in nature during the month of October. So I thought I'd share really quickly a little poem that I wrote. The meadow season cuts so clear, shears away what we hold dear. Yet in the loss, the soul takes flight, finding wisdom in fading light. October teaches soft surrender, to yield, to rest, to remember. The harvest done, the silence near, a sacred pause, the mind made clear. Interesting to take a moment and just ask yourself, am I resting? Am I reflecting? Have I gathered my harvest? You know, the fruits of all my hard labor from the year so far? Am I creating space for silence? Do I have clarity on what it is that I desire in this next season moving forward? So drop the weight, release the past. Not all that's gathered was meant to last. In autumn's arms, the spirit frees like falling leaves, return to peace. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now let's get right to business. Let's scope out the feng shui for the dog month. So it starts on the 8th of October. So at the release of this recording, you have at least 7 days to get your stuff cleansed and prepared and rearranged in such a way to make sure that you have it all in place before the new month begins. So for those who are tuning in for the first time or have a lighter understanding of classical feng shui, the way that we look at energy and spaces is always a multi-layered factor. So our homes or our office spaces or whatever spaces that we inhabit or dwell in, there is always a base chart, like a baseline energy to that space. It's very similar to your birthday. Okay, so there's a fixed energy that naturally describes the inherent strengths and potential weaknesses in that space. Okay, and you usually, this is a little bit more involved and it requires professional help in order to understand and put together the natal chart for your space in order to understand what is the baseline. And then you have the next layer, which is the annual influence. Every year the energy changes. Every year there's a different theme. And while the base chart is fixed, like your birthday is fixed, it's set. It kind of takes a snapshot picture of the energy at that moment in time. But energy is dynamic, right? It's always in a state of flux. It's in motion. And so you have the annual influences, which creates events, it creates experiences. Whether or not it creates good stuff or negative stuff, again, it just kind of depends on the configuration. But every year when I do my Chinese New Year talk, I always address the annual energy. And from that, you're able to incorporate whatever cures you need to take care of the energy of your house. Then obviously we have the monthly energy, and the monthly energy is also important to pay attention to because it has a seasonal impact. And again, energy can come down to, as little as by the hour specifically, but nobody has that kind of time to really pay attention to it unless we were planning for something well far into the future and we have a specific time range for that. But otherwise, we can still manage the monthly energy, and these monthly talks that I offer are usually a way for people to be able to handle it themselves. But again, it doesn't give you the full picture, right? The full quality of the feng shui of your home unless you get the base assessed by a professional. But in the interim, you can take care of your monthly energy. So that's what we're going to talk about at this moment. Again, for those that are light with understanding of feng shui, these numbers are just mere meaning. They have a specific meaning. They represent a kind of quality. They represent the 5 elements, but they also carry specific meaning on how they influence our environment. And out of the 9 numbers that we work with, number 2 and number 5 are considered the worst, not just because of the numerical, image of it, but what it represents. Number 5 being misfortune. It's basically everything that you don't want in your life, and it's not isolated to a specific area of life. It can touch upon all areas of life. So career, relationship, health, mindset, your day-to-day, money, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously number 2 is, it is what it is, sickness. And obviously sickness can extend beyond the physical ailments, and it can impact our psychological well-being as well as our emotional and spiritual state. So we always pay attention to where these guys are landing in our homes so that we can take care in managing or suppressing those negative energies before they wreak havoc. And so the sickness star is going to be in the southeast sector during the month of the dog. So you have to look at your floor plan, have a good understanding of the directional energy of your space, asking yourself, relative to my home, what is in the southeast side of my home? Is it my bedroom, my kitchen, my front door, right? All of those important spaces. That means during the month of the dog, starting on the 8th of October, you have this culprit, sickness culprit, visiting in the southeast side of your home. Then the next one we pay attention to is number 5, which is the misfortune star in the west side. So again, similar question: what kind of room, space, use and functionality of that space. Obviously, if it's just, a spare bedroom that nobody goes into, if it's just a storage area, right? Or kind of like a one-off space, like a formal dining room, but you guys don't really use it unless there's big family gathering, then it's not too bad of a deal. It doesn't wreak havoc as it would, say, if it was your home office or your living room or your front door. Obviously, based on the activity and the usage of that space is going to activate, right? And you're going to be stimulated by that energy. And these are negative stars. So the way we would typically address the misfortune stars, we would always place 6 metal rod wind chime. There are some wind chimes that you can buy on Amazon that come in a stand, so you don't actually have to drill a nail onto the wall to hang it or to display it, but it can just stay in a stand, and the stand you can move it around. The other option is, some people don't like the wind chimes, then the other option is to use 6 metal coins, which is also available. And for this month, we're actually placing the 6 metal coins here in the southeast and one in the north. This also helps to tame that energy that's sitting there in the north that can be harmful to children, particularly if you have children's bedroom, children's playroom, for example. If they're on the north side, that energy visiting during the month of the dog is especially sensitive towards children. These are all earth element, 2, 5, and 8, or they belong to the earth element. And, when you learn more about it in Chinese medicine, it's related to the stomach. So it can activate this feeling of anxiety, worry, something is at the pit of your stomach. Maybe you don't feel as grounded. Suddenly you feel quite pessimistic or cynical and skeptical. Maybe you're a little bit more doubtful of the decisions you're making. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be like a big explosive ailment, although it can be, but it can also be other things, that touch on the mental and emotional state. So just take care of those areas. If you don't do anything else, my suggestion, especially if you have children, young children living in your home, then you do want to make sure you take the initiative to go ahead and take care of the north sector as well. And then all the other stuff are secondary. We have the south and northeast sector. We put the 3 bamboos in a clear glass vase. These are related to the metal element. They're responsible for like upper respiratory stuff. So sometimes, families will report like everybody's getting a cold, or, I'm feeling a lot more emotional. And all the other things that normally would contribute to being emotional are kind of excluded from the formula, but there's just sort of this unspoken or unidentifiable reasoning for why you feel emotional, because that's all related to the metal element right here. And metal also is responsible for misunderstandings, miscommunications, breakdown in agreements or breakdown in negotiated terms, for example. So again, it's important to pay attention to what are you doing in those areas. Normally, if those are the rooms, let's say it's your office or your home office if you work from home, or if it's the big conference room in your commercial space, for instance, where deals go down, pitch sessions are happening, team meetings are ongoing in those particular rooms. You want to make sure to just take care of that energy there to minimize any potential problems that can create friction and stress during that time. Oops, spelled that a little too excited. And then finally, we have the center and the northwest sector, which we typically, in this month, we put the red envelope, but it's really anything fire element related as a cure. So anything that's red, it can be a salt lamp, it can be a candle, it can be a red vase, it can be a red throw, right? Anything that is red or fire related. So again, if you want to incorporate something that's not so jarringly different from your decor, you can choose very specific objects, and they don't have to be big. You don't have to display them. You can easily put them under pieces of furniture or rugs, for instance, behind. I have had clients that actually would tape the red envelope under the dining table, for instance. So these are elements that are addressing very specific energies kind of moving and swirling around those spaces. And 3 and 4 are more related more towards relationship stuff. So, and that can be very personal relationship, very intimate relationships like a spouse or your children at home, as well as intimate relationships at work, like your business partner, or your direct boss that you have a close relationship with. So we just want to protect that. Again, sometimes things happen and a lot of people will say that came out of left field. I wasn't expecting that. Like nothing is random, right? And so the more we can at least be proactive ahead of time is always helpful. Okay, preventative care, but this preventative care is for your house instead of the body. All right. The one thing I love about this month is we actually have a very good, very prosperous energy visiting in the east side. And before you go gaga and before you get excited, I want to make sure I preface this with emphasis that you can only activate this if A, you have had your house feng shui before and you know the energy in the east sector. Now, if I have existing clients that have worked with me in the past and you're watching this and you're wondering, I did get a feng shui done, but I don't remember what's in the east side, please go ahead and just shoot me an email because I have all of your information and I would be able to tell you whether or not you can go ahead and activate that. And number 2, it's also to make sure that whatever you do to activate the east side is not going to disturb or disrupt, any kind of existing cures that you already had in place to make sure that they are not being messed with. And so for those who have been following me for a long time, including a lot of my students know I don't talk a lot about activation because there is just so many it depends kind of scenario, but it is so strong. The potential for good opportunities is so strong in the east side if the feng shui of your house is already a good energy in the east side. So you won't really know that unless you've had a detailed analysis done already to your home. And the 9-1 combination, I mean, these are the 2 most prosperous, most positive, most timely energy today. And the fact that they're pairing up, meaning they love each other, they're just only going to enhance and support and stimulate each other to be more. So if you can activate it, the fastest way to activation is using moving water. We call it yang water. So like water fountain or aquarium, basically anything that has a pump that allows the water to move, to make sound, and to be continuous even when the space is not being used. So sometimes some homes will use ceiling fans, music, even something to keep the energy going and uplifting and active, right? Obviously, if your front door, right, is on the east side, wow. I mean, just the fact that it's the front door, the door is the mouth of the house, it's already receiving really good energy. But again, don't prematurely activate this if you don't know the full picture. it's kind of going back to this, and I've been repeating myself over the last few months, reminding people that energy is layered. So we're only talking about this monthly star, but I already know the annual star in the east side is very good because it's number 9, but I don't know what the base chart is for your home, right? So if your base chart is a 9 or a 1, then you for sure can 100% activate it. But if the base number of your home on the east side is a 5, right? Misfortune, then activating it means you will destroy whatever existing cures that you've already put in place for that area. And then you're going to wake up the beast, right? You're going to wake up that 5. So just be very careful, ask questions. And, if I'm not your primary feng shui practitioner, then go back to your primary feng shui practitioner and ask them, hey, I heard that the east side, in the month of October is really great. Am I able to activate it for my home or my office? So just make sure. All right, so it's October and we are just kind of inching closer and closer into the new year. There is no bad time or best time to get a full comprehensive feng shui evaluation. I work with clients in many different stages of their home owning or even renting experience. Whether you've lived there for 20 years, you're getting ready to move to a new place, you want to renovate, you're building a house, you're closing on a house, whatever your situation is, it's always a good time to get feng shui done. It's a great investment to protect, the first of all, the biggest financial investment you're going to make for yourself, which is where you live. And you want to make sure that this container that you're funneling a lot of your resources into in turn is also supporting you. So I usually get fairly busy going into the new year. So if you're interested in getting a feng shui done, I highly, highly suggest to get that locked in on the calendar, even if we do it going into December or January. It's just best to have that on the calendar sooner rather than later. All right. So we are going into the dog month. And this dog month is called Yang Fire Dog. And the dog is so interesting. It's very, very multi-layered. It's fascinating. It has so much personality. It's very much like the dragon, but not. But they're connected. So it is a very spiritual element. And I want you to think of October, the imagery of October, as a lot like a sunset, okay? And we get to experience sunsets every day as long as we're alive, right? And when it hits like 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. every day, we've had a full work day, we've had an energizing day, we're stimulated, maybe overstimulated. And just imagine when we're starting to wind down, prepare for dinner, be with family, we're kind of calming down, winding down, getting ready, right, to sleep, to wrap up, right? That's October. And October carries that meaning anyway, but the fact that it's attached to Yang fire, because every dog month can be different. It can be wood dog, water dog, metal dog, right? But this year it's a fire dog. And it has so many meanings. So first of all, Yang fire, let's break this down, is always associated with the sun. It's very transparent. It's out in the open, right? It gives warmth and light, and it represents this kind of like a new day. There's a sense of optimism and energy about the sun. So a lot of Yang fire people exhibit these qualities, that's why I call them my unicorns. They just have just this kind of delightful outlook on life. But then when they're not in check, right? So if their elements are out of balance, then they can also exhibit, right, the other side of that, which is that they can be a bit manic, like doing too many things and can't focus. They hold on to this false reality or false positivity, we call it toxic positivity, where it's like, dude, this is not good. But then a yang fire person could be like, yes, but look at it on the bright side. And it's like, no, come back to earth. Um, we need to get to work and do the hard things. And sometimes yang fire people just kind of stay up on cloud nine. And so they do have this unrealistic expectation. And when they're not honed in, they can get very disorganized. They're doing too many things and can't finish, So every element has a duality, right? So it always is when you are healthy, these are all the plus qualities that you exhibit. But when you're not healthy, these are the negative, right, qualities, the minus qualities that somebody might actually exhibit. So these are just some folks. Then we move on to the dog. The dog is actually like a mountain. So that's why I say it's very similar to the dragon energy. And, for those who have been following me for a while know that 2024 was a dragon year. So, in many ways, it is a little bit of like, ooh, let's just hold on to our pants, like let's brace ourselves. But the dog month also represents this space, this limbo between autumn and winter. So every season has a space. I call it the beat between them. And so we're moving into that beat going into October, right before we transition into the start of the winter season, right? And the dog is also very interesting because it has a special name. We in BaZi professionals, we call it the grave of fire. The dog is a storage element, meaning it stores up energy or it stores hidden resources. Think of it as like a suitcase that you bury under the earth kind of a thing. Well, every element, right? Each of the 5 elements go through a life cycle, just like human beings have life cycles, just like animals have life cycles, elements have life cycles. Where for the fire element, it goes into the grave in October. So whenever October comes, the fire goes to die, okay? It's like it's already sick, it's already weak, it's past, and now it's burying it, letting it, go into the grave, go into the earth. And so all of that sort of enthusiasm and joyful wonderment and all that sort of uplifting kind of energy is not only beginning to wane, to really slow down and super, super duper like weakening, but it is gone. Lights out, right? So imagine it's almost like this picture where, in September, you can kind of see a little bit of the sun left, a sliver of it in the horizon, maybe like an eclipse of it. And October, it's night, the sun has set, right? So it is darkness. And the dog month, just like the dragon, is never a nobleman. So during the month of October, there is no nobleman, okay, which we'll talk about that. So let's break this down a little bit more. When you do your meditation, even your visual meditation, the prompts that I'm going to be giving you, I want you to imagine you either up on a mountain or walking on a trail in a, full forest on a trail, or maybe you're on the beach and whatever the scenario is, you're imagining watching the sunset. And again, yang fire, when it's well, it also means courage. It's the heart, right? It also is the shoulders because the quality of the element means to shoulder, right? To burden, to shoulder something. And it requires courage to like shoulder something. So that means October will ask each and every one of us in different shapes or form to be courageous. Okay. What? We don't know, but to be courageous. Then you have the dog sign, which I said is the storage, right? And we sometimes we also call this the guardian, even though it's not about noblemen, okay? But it's just the guardian for protection. Like, because I know I'm going to be in a precarious state, or that I'm going to be walking into a space where I'm maybe a little bit more vulnerable, then I need to make sure I'm on guard, right? Like, I'm not just going to let my guards down and, pitter patter and not pay attention. In fact, if anything, I'm more heightened, right? I'm more aware. My eyes are bigger, right? My spidey senses are wide open. And so I need to be courageous, but I also need to stand guard for something. Because this also again belongs to the autumn season, this is it. It's the follow through to letting go. We have been practicing since August, right? If we were in alignment with the season. And again, those things can change year from year, right? Life demands different things at different times. But we are in that autumn season, and October is like, I'm almost to the finish line. I'm headed to the finish line. Am I gonna choke? You know what I mean? And backtrack or go back on my words and my promises, or because it got hard, it got muddy, it got complicated, I got distracted, whatever, fill in the blank reason. Or am I willing to shoulder the remaining, gunk of this burden or habit or whatever that doesn't serve you, and have the courage to stay disciplined, right? To stay focused so that I can take it all the way to the end. That's going to be a challenge. And a lot of people fall short, and that's okay. That's why we have the recurring part of the season. But because this is yang fire dog, I mean, it literally is the sunset in your life, right? So allow yourself to be pushed to finally, get to the finish line so you don't have to carry it with you anymore, especially going into 2026. So, be protective, yes, because there's a lot more opening for mishaps and, all that energy purification that happens, that for a lot of people that are self-aware knows what happens, that it's really important I believe, to just stay grounded in your rituals, right? Being consistent with how you take care, not just physically, like going to the gym, but you can be physically fit, like looking really good, but like that's not a reflection of your spirit interiorly. And your spirit is sacred, and it's a time to really showcase or embody the work that you've been doing within your own spirit in your outer world. And so choosing to stand guard and protect what is sacred to you, like boundaries or conversations. What are you consuming? What are you allowing into your life? Not just from an external space, but also with yourself. And they can be small things, little things like scrolling on your phone, to big things like, that friend that you feel guilty to not respond to, and you keep letting them come in and they just destroy your spirit every single time after you hang out with them, to whatever that might be. So there is a need for protecting what is sacred. And because you know that there is no nobleman, So there's no angels going to help you out. This is a time to really stand firm on your own. Okay. And letting go is not weakness. Okay. In fact, being able to let go is actually an act of trust, that you know that what is going to be cycling out of your life allows for what is to come. And trust and faith, they go hand in hand. They're like friends. You know what I mean? One cannot exist without the other. You can't have trust without faith, and you can't have faith without trust. They are companions. And so, what a beautiful way to come into the month of October and just like really dig deep and get back into that routine of that space of nurturing, your spirit. And when the spirit is nurtured, everything else will feel good, like your digestion, that lower back that keeps aching, the migraines that you keep getting. Some people are vomiting, some people are are having digestive issues, um, autoimmune type things that are flaring up, for example. For those of you guys have not been following me on Instagram, I am on a gut healing protocol at the moment. So I myself had made that decision for myself back in August, that that was going to be the thing for me, that I was going to, you know, repair and nurture my own digestive system, leaning into the energy of the dog, right? That I've made a commitment that that's what's going to be the thing that I'm going to focus on. And so that's why it's important, each month they don't stand alone on their own. Everything is connected and everything is built up from the previous going into the now and going to the next. And um, so this is just a reminder, okay, to look back in August. Maybe you need to go back to my August talk to kind of reset and recalibrate, or even reflect back and say, okay, what came to me then, and did I follow through going into September? Is that still true going into the month of October? So here are just some things for you to think about. What are the sunsets in your life? Like by end of chapter, end of an era, right? That you actually need to just have the boldness to say thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that person. Thank you for that experience. Thank you for that pain. Thank you for that god awful whatever. Or, sort of this, because it's easy to be grateful for good things, right? At least I hope so. But it's very hard. It's almost counterintuitive to feel grateful for hard lessons. I mean, imagine telling that to someone who is diagnosed with a sickness, people who are in the midst of a divorce, people who are in custody battles, people who are filing for bankruptcy, people who are having marital issues. So the list goes on, but things always cycles. And can you allow yourself to be in that state of gratitude while you're watching the sunsets happening in your life, rather than resisting? It never works anyway, right? Resisting never, ever works. And we eventually find that out. And my whole purpose for doing these things and helping clients through all the years is, how can we be a little bit more proactive? How can we be, even if we can't be proactive, how can we be more in real time? Responding to things in real time, rather than shoving, resisting, denying, procrastinating, ignoring, making excuses, stubborn, getting in our own way, right? All of these things is common between like all humans. And but this is just a reminder to grasp on the one thing that is the sunset of your life right now, and how can you just infuse a little bit more gratitude in that. So you can kind of read through this. I love I love prompting visual meditations, because Especially when you're in a really calm state, when you've allowed yourself, to just be in a relaxed state, and you can actually not necessarily manipulate the imagery in your mind. You can set the stage, but then it's almost like watching a movie and you're just seeing how the image moves, the characters in that image. And so you can make it a lot more tangible by asking yourself, like, what does the sky look like? What colors? Do I feel a sensation of the wind? Do I smell anything? Do I hear anything? What are my emotions? Do I actually feel very calm and at ease, or suddenly I feel very emotional and there's tears rolling down my cheek? And um, or what does that sunset remind me of? Maybe it's someone or a past experience or whatever. It's just beautiful. And sometimes I get clients that, in the past, whatever visual prompts I've given in the past, sometimes people will write me and say, oh my gosh, this has been a consistent um, visual imagery that would pop up during my meditation, or maybe when I'm getting ready, like about to fall asleep, kind of a thing, and it would pop up in their mind. So it's a beautiful thing. It's you connecting with your imagination, but it's also that middle state between your consciousness and your subconscious state. And so, beautiful time to do all of this in the month of the dog. Okay. So let's look at the stars as mentioned. No, no woman. Okay. We're all on our own. All right. We have to rely on our own strength. And there is a need for that. It's kind of like when you are a parent, and if you do everything for your children, they don't develop any kind of skills, right? To know how to cope or regulate their emotions or to problem solve, because you're always there, lending a hand, right? Once in a while, the parent just has to suck it up and go, you know what? You're gonna have to figure it out. And it's hard because they stumble and fall and sometimes they hurt themselves, but that's how they learn. And guess what, guys? This is that moment, October. We gotta learn, right? So I wanted to offer extra guidance during the month of the dog for specific days and hours. Um, I included the dragon because the dragon and the dog are clashes, which you will see here. So if your BaZi chart has a dragon, year, month, day, time, that means you will have a October clash. But if you wanted to take a screenshot of this and just record it, monitor it, maybe those are the days that you avoid big meetings, big medical surgeries, just, anything. Just keep it leisurely, keep it quiet, keep it spiritual, keep it simple, because we can't always pause our lives, right? Because we're all connected to each other and there's work, there's obligations and traffic and people. And so it's a balance between what you need to do, what is necessary, and also just incorporating some mindfulness to say, okay, well, I got to go to that event. So maybe I just need to make sure I, sleep well the night before. I lay out all my outfit the night before, so I'm not in a rush. I try not to overbook my day so I don't feel spastic and stressed going into that event, right? So there's so many ways to work around these days. Okay. All right. So dog dragon clash, right, is always I call it the spiritual clash. It's the punch in the gut. It is to come to Jesus. Okay. And we've had this conversation back in April, and we had this conversation in all of 2024. So we're kind of revisiting all that stuff. It's like, what else? What else is in there? And because the dog dragon sign, the earth element, is very powerful. It's a very powerful kind of clash. It's often when we see earthquakes or, even Mother Nature responds to this energy. And, the tectonic plates, they like, right, clash. Sinkhole, give in, right? The road, buildings collapsing, bridges collapsing, like If Mother Nature is also exhibiting very similar behaviors to Earth feeling pissed or disturbed, then there's aspects of um, our state of being is also being called to clash as well. Okay. So, just discern better this month. It's not a month to just be completely off the grid. You know what I mean? Nobody is really off the grid, and being off the grid is not healthy. No one person ever truly thrive being completely isolated. But it's a delicate balance between being overly stimulated and overly understimulated. And so, just as a final word for discernment, and discernment is a way to help you make decisions, right? How are you saying yes and how are you saying no? And careful discernment is not based on the ego or based on what the heart wants, because sometimes there are things that we want, but we know we can't or we shouldn't or we don't. Okay, so I know that sounds very like, I don't know, mythical, but but it really is that not everything that comes your way deserves your yes, is basically what I'm trying to say. So, but what of those invitations deserve your yes will come from discernment, you know? And that's what I mean by like, sometimes you want to say yes to something because it's what your heart wants, but maybe it doesn't make sense. It's not aligned. It doesn't make sense. It's not, in cahoots with your plan, right? Or you're saying yes out of obligation and guilt and duty, for example. And it all kind of circles back to what I said about guarding what is sacred, right? And having the courage to protect that. So just be mindful and slow down. Take your time. Impulsivity has its space and place. October is when the trees are getting balder and balder because the leaves have fallen and they're on the ground. So it's not the best time for all the, you know, uprising of energy. It just is not the right season for that. So finish what you started. I want to also remind everybody to save the date. We have the 13th annual Chinese New Year talk on January 31st. It's an in-person event in Scottsdale, Arizona. This year, I decided, in honor of the horse year, that I'm going to convert it into a half-day retreat. In the past, I've done this in a workshop format where, my talk is an hour and a half, and maybe we all mingle and linger for like another half hour. But this is actually going to be a whole thing with a focus on wellness. And I have invited a couple of guest speakers who will be coming in to share. And facilitate some experiences for our participants. If you don't live in Arizona, you can purchase the recording, but the recording is only going to be my presentation for the Feng Shui and BaZi forecast talk for 2026. So you're not actually going to get like the full experience of what the other guests are also going to be offering. And because I will be releasing my BaZi book, the initial launch of the new book will also occur at this event as well. So it's going to be so much fun. And I know a couple of people are going to be traveling in for it. And it's just super fun. Lots of great gatherings and another, just a very intentional way of setting yourself up for the new year. Okay, so stay tuned for more info. We will have an early bird promo that's coming out to secure your spot. And it's not going to be at the ranch at my studio because we can only hold so many people. It will be at a different location where we can hold more people, but we will still have a cap. So save your seats. And don't forget, we also have the 6-day BaZi training in June, which will be in Scottsdale, Arizona again. This is going to be in person. There's absolutely no remote teaching for this. We're going back to the OG format, which is in alignment with the school's policy with the Raymond Lowe School of Feng Shui and Destiny. So it was time to get back into the groove of things and actually share a space together, specifically devoted to learning about BaZi. So, and holiday season's coming up, gift certificates, buyer packages for 2026 moving forward. All packages, they expire 1 year from purchase, so you will be adequately supported for a whole year. And the next talk is going to be on November 4th, and it will be live on Zoom. So you can actually go on my Calendly scheduler and register so that I get to see ya live for the last time, at least for this year. So I look forward to seeing you. I hope you learned a lot. Like I said, our formatting will begin to change going into next year. So stay tuned for details. And I look forward to hearing from you, either seeing you on Zoom or seeing you in person. Take care. Bye bye.